As you know, this is the third meeting in a series of town halls we're doing in trying to resource the church in the area of the COVID-19 and this crisis that we are facing, not just in Canada, but in the world. We are both, our family of churches is ministry and mission in Canada and also in many parts of the world. So we are being, there are some new realities for us as we face this. So the invitation today, as it was for the last couple of days, is for us to resource each other. We have churches of different sizes and churches with different resources that will be able to, and will be able to resource each other as we talk throughout the day. Specifically today, I want to thank Mark Taves, who is with us. Mark is if I am saying this correctly, Mark, you are an HR lawyer. Is that what your specialty?
Yeah, that's fair to say. Yeah.
Sorry, my Siri wants to answer for you. That's
okay.
Mark, thank you for being here with us. And Mark has resourced CCNBC in a number of issues for us over the last couple of years, and we are grateful to have you here. So thank you for taking the time. The idea is that for the first half an hour, we're going to interact with Mark on questions about employment, some of the things that maybe government that may have provided for small business, which churches would be included in that. There's already a number of resources already linked to that chat for you. After the first half an hour, we'll go and we will visit with Corey Friesen. Corey, thank you for being with us, Corey, this morning. Corey works for Lakeview Insurance, an insurance broker that works with Robson Hall Insurance, which is one of the premier providers of insurance for churches. And so we want to ask relevant questions around, what are we insured for in this time? And there are some questions that we may want to have for them. And then after that, we will talk a bit about how the church managed this time when we are not gathering together live. How do we continue to receive the gifts and resources that our congregation wants to give to us? So some ideas, and we will interact around this. So this is the format today. We hope to go for about an hour and a half, if that's okay. We'll begin with a word of prayer, and then we are going to start with some more of the HR questions and conversations with Mark. So let's just pray. Heavenly Father, we are grateful that you are our God and that you are go ahead of us, resourcing us at all times. And I thank you that even in this time of anxiety, in this time when we find that things are different than we are used to, that you can provide for us. I pray for your peace over our hearts and mind, and I pray for your wisdom as we talk to one another. We pray these things in the name of Jesus. Amen. So I'm going to begin with you, Mark. Do you have any initial advice for the churches as they deal with perhaps layoffs and other things that may impact them as we move forward?
Sure, I'll make a few comments. First of all, I hope everyone can hear me okay. The last time I was on a Zoom call, there was some technical problems on my end. So if there's any problems hearing me, maybe just put in a chat and I'll be able to see that. So I hope everything is understandable. Great, thank you for the feedback there. I'm getting calls off my phone is ringing off the hook from a lot of businesses and a lot of companies. What do we do with respect to our staff? We can't afford to keep staff. Things are shutting down everywhere. A lot of businesses, of course, no longer have cash flow, and so they're not quite sure what to do. And there's a couple things to keep in mind. One is it is for the sake of your church and your workplace. So it's absolutely critical that you allow people to take time off it is important. There's a lot of liability if you have people come to work that have symptoms or are concerned that they may get symptoms because of the interactions that they have. So it's absolutely critical that people be allowed to take time off. And of course, if there are symptoms, they need to be sent home. You cannot afford to risk having any health of anybody being undermined. So, so those are sort of the general principles. They need to, you need to allow for people to take time off. You need to ensure that they are gone when there's any symptoms whatsoever. And nobody should be forced to show up at work if they feel unsafe. So those are some general things. Now I get a lot of questions about, do we have to pay them? And the short answer is, if they're not working, the short answer is no. And we are in uncharted territory here. I'm telling people that when it comes to EI, there's a lot of red tape that's being loosened up, and that people need to take resources for that is available. There's a couple exceptions to that. For example, if you lay people off, there is still at minimum a statutory obligation that you need to comply with for notice, and that will the amount of time could depend on your jurisdiction, but generally depending on the length of service of an individual, it's anywhere from 1 to 8 weeks. So that is something that you need to keep in mind. So if they're not going on sick leave and you need to lay them off because you can't afford to keep them around anymore, then they are owed at minimum a certain amount of notice or payments in lieu of that notice. So those are some general principles to keep in mind, and then it really comes down to your own personal sick leave pay. You can use vacation, you can use sick leave so to be able to compensate them, and whatever sort of short-term insurance that you have with respect to people that are in fact ill. Those all can be resourced. So there's a number of options that could be available, and if you have any specific questions, I'll do my best to address them.
So we're going to open for questions for Mark, and and some ideas that we may have as well that we've been dealing with or thinking of. I know that this is a touchy subject, because sometimes when we feel we are asking questions in an open format like this, people get afraid that now their boss is asking questions, they may be losing their job. So it becomes, so we can be sensitive in how we ask the question, but at the same time, it would be important to have the resources at hand. So if you use the raise hand option in your chat on your participant, we will begin with questions for Mark.
Perhaps I'll just quickly jump in here. Another qualifier to consider. One, I get called a lot because someone says, they have an employee that's just been on a trip. They think they're fine. They want to come back to work, but we insist that they be self-isolating. Under those, if it's unanticipated and you're forcing a person not to come to work, they do have a stronger argument that for that 2-week period of self-isolation that they are owed money because it wasn't their choice. Mm-hmm. And so that is an area that could be legitimate, and you may have to be prepared to pay for imposed self-isolation. If it's their choice, you don't owe them. And if it's sick, they get put on sick leave. You use whatever sick days or whatever. There's sick, EI. If you have absolutely nothing else, EI has sick leave benefits that can be taken advantage of. And now apparently without any waiting period. We'll see how that red tape is tested as that gets used more and more. But that would be any imposed self-isolation without any symptoms whatsoever. You may be responsible for those 2 weeks where you self-isolate. What I have been telling employers is that on a go-forward basis, let's say that an employee wants to take a trip to Italy next week, and you say, you're canceling the trip because if you come back, you're on self-isolation, and you're not going to be paid. You've had plenty of warning. That's different. But we're talking about the people that just came back from a cruise, or that could not have known when they went on the cruise, or when they went to Italy or China or wherever they could have still gone, that this would pose a problem. So I'm just sort of throwing that out there as a potential caution as well.
Thank you. We're going to go to Michael Dick. Michael, you have a question?
Yeah, Mark, in British Columbia, I've had two different opinions on that in regards to—
Not surprising.
Yeah, well, notice in regards to putting somebody on EI, that you can do it immediately, and that the severance for their time worked wouldn't need to be applied until after 13 weeks.
Okay. You could put someone immediately on EI if they're ill, because that's the sick leave EI comes into play right away. If you're putting people on, if you're laying off people because the work isn't there anymore and you're closing down, or financial reasons or whatever, that would be different. They would still be owed the minimum notice period. And then after that, they would be able to go on, they would be eligible for EI. I don't know if that answers the question, but that is the general scheme.
We have a few people on cell phones and phone lines. I cannot see if you want to speak. So at that time, if you can just say something. This way, I know that you want to ask a question. Any other questions? Maybe Mark, while we wait here a bit, can you tell us a bit more about the ability for the top off, if we are laying people off for if they are ill, that there is a program from the government where you can top their what they're receiving up to 90%, I believe it is.
Yeah, you know, that is an area that is there's a lot of lack of clarity from the government. I'll just tell you that right now, and a lot of us are scratching our heads trying to figure out, what does this practically mean? We're getting a lot of promises from the government, and I'm sure they're all well intended, but one thing we're not getting, because everything's a moving target, and it's happening so quickly in the last week. We don't have the legal draft in writing. So I know as much. What I know is from the sound bites from government officials, and we still don't have sort of documented clarity as far as what it means practically. So, I'm a little bit in the dark on this as well, and it's a bit of a moving target. What I'm telling a lot of people is, look, I almost know as much as you do, because all the rules are being tossed aside, it seems. And so, Service Canada, you're going to have to be on the call with Service Canada and be on hold for about 2 hours to really get the right answer. But it's true. There is availability now in the government programs to top up. It's unclear as far as the process that you need to do and the wait times. So there's a lot of promises. And again, if you would have asked me a month ago what's available, like let's say with respect to EI, there's a clear scheme there. Yes, you can apply. There is availability even in layoff situations to get some, or if it's reduced hours, to get some funds, but there's always a delay. And then for sick leave, you have to prepare all the medical reports. All of that is being waived. But I haven't had enough cases from people trying out the system to give me feedback about how well it's worked. So, we're all kind of wading into completely unknown territory. And the problem as a lawyer is I give advice based upon either what's occurred or what is legally documented. And I don't have either of those right now. So we are wading into a lot of unknown territory here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Yeah. For everyone, as I mentioned yesterday, this series of town hall meetings are not just a CCMBC town hall meetings, but these are an initiative of the National Ministry Team, which is all the provincial leaders and agency leaders together. And so you'll probably hear from some of our provincial leaders as well. At this time, Dennis Federal from our BC conference has a question or a comment.
Yeah, thanks, Elton. Thanks, Mark, for those comments, and I really appreciate the fact that we are in uncharted territories. I just wanted to chime in and let people know that, at least in BC, I just signed the papers for applying for all our churches for the sub-program, for the Supplemental Unemployment Benefits Program. And so it's meant as an umbrella document, and then every church independently has to apply for it. And then they can decide whether or not they want to top off at 20%, 30%, or 40% maximum to a 95%. Our bookkeeper has been in contact with the Services Canada, and we think we have a clear, think is the operative word here, that we have a clear understanding of what needs to happen in terms of paying or getting our people that are going to be laid off on that supplemental income benefits program. That may, of course, change once we have submitted the papers. So we're going to do that today, and we can send emails around to people just to let them know what our experiences are if we're running into roadblocks or anything like that.
Thank you, Dennis. Keep the questions coming. Mark, if you could maybe talk to us a bit about some of the experiences you have dealt with in other times of crisis, and how other I know this is unprecedented, but how, and I think you began by saying, hey, take a look at your sick leaves first. Can you use that as a way of bridging some of that gap? Are there other things that we could be doing as a church?
Sorry, though. Yeah, if you could just repeat that question. I had a little technical glitch here that I was working on.
Oh, okay, not a problem. Yeah. You had given us already some advice on how to deal with possible layoffs, yeah. And you began by saying, hey, maybe the first thing you need to do is approach your sick leave policies, yeah. And utilize that as your first resource kind of thing. Are there other things that you would advise us?
Yeah, what the general process is, you start with whatever's available for sick leave. For people that are ill, there may be, you have to work with your insurers to figure out what's available, and as far as disability is concerned for short term and so forth. If this crisis may not be over anytime soon, and you may have to utilize the vacation pay, or give people the option to use vacation pay if they want to be topped up to 100%. And then when those things are exhausted, you get EI involved to, especially if there's either layoffs or being cut to part-time, what difference they can make up. So, what a lot of employers are doing is they're using sort of whatever policies they have, whether it's sick leave, whether it's, for those that are ill, the disability benefits for vacation, and fill it up to full-time as much as they can, and then that get an EI involved as much as you can. So that's the challenging process. None of this is pain-free. Right. People are getting laid off, and people are getting unpaid because of these layoffs, and that is the harsh reality out there.
Well, I'm going to open up for any comments that are beyond the ones that we have addressed here. If there are areas that we have not talked to that is related to employment, let's just open up for a conversation. And again, I do know that this is a sensitive area, and a sensitive way of doing this in an open platform it's not the easiest thing, but please address your question. So we'll go back to Dennis Federal.
Just wanted to raise a point, Mark, and you can confirm this, please, that if you're going to utilize the supplemental unemployment benefits program, you have to be registered with the Services Canada before you lay an employee off. If you lay them off and then want to enroll, it's too late. You can't do it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding. You know, we're encouraging people to do all these things. What I've discovered is that there's an attempt on the government to use as much flexibility as possible, but that is my understanding too.
Thank you.
David Esau.
So based on that kind of helps frame my question. Is it seems to me it's okay to just kind of pause, think through something before you actually take steps, is what I'm hearing based on what you said, some of the uncertainties and the comment that Dennis just made. If we're not certain, it won't hurt us to wait for a week or two to kind of get more clarity before we take some steps.
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
You're freezing up here, Mark.
Am I? Okay. You know, sometimes, shockingly, my pad works better than my desktop, even though it's not supposed to be the case. So if it happens again, maybe I'll switch to that.
Okay.
But yeah, you want to do this very deliberately and very rationally. You know, unfortunately, a lot of organizations that have contacted me are running out of money now, and so they don't know what to do. They have to do something quick, and so the layoffs have to happen very quick because no one's coming into their business. So I would sorry, I just got my phone just started ringing. So under those circumstances, yeah, there's quick layoffs, mass layoffs, and people are getting their minimum notice, and that's it. But if one can, try to approach it more rationally and you know, and allow for some time, all the better. At the same time, what I've also noticed is that a lot of employees want to be comforted that their employer is proactive. So for example, if they're feeling unsafe and an employer approaches them saying, look, you know, safety, you only have to come in for a certain amount of hours. You know, we're going to go on skeleton staff. A lot of them feel quite relieved. So whatever programs you can do to ensure the safety of your staff, setting them up from home, remote access, whatever you need to do, that goes a long way in building up confidence among staff.
That would be my next question to you, Mark. And I know we are approaching the time that you had committed to us here. But my question to you: are there any advice to, you know, the responsibility of employers towards their employees as it relates to safety?
Yes, there is.
So,
Most jurisdictions have very clear rules that you cannot expect to put your employees in a harmful situation, okay? So you want to create an environment where there is reasonable safety, where you're not having a crowded workspace where people, so that people can, a lot of businesses where only half people are in on any day, so that there is space. So you may want to consider that. And again, working from home, the more you can, the better. And employees in most jurisdictions have the right to refuse work if they feel it's unsafe. So if they were to say, I'm not comfortable coming in, my advice is to respect that.
thank you. I want to thank you, Mark. I know this was a last-minute call that I put up for you, and you were so gracious to be here with us this morning. So thank you so much for that. And I know that you and I will keep on talking through this and be able to advise our churches as we go forward. So thank you, Mark.
You bet. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. So just before we go into a conversation around the insurance part, how many of you as churches have policies around sick days and vacation days? Just a show of hands. I know a lot of you guys don't have your cameras on, but okay. What is a typical, and maybe a couple of you can actually answer this, what is a typical sick day policy for your church? Oh, we have music all of a sudden. Okay. Anyone? What is the sick day policy for your church? How many days? What is required for a sick day? Michael?
We do a day a month, and it does not accrue from year to year.
Okay. Do you require a doctor's note?
No.
Okay. Good. Others? So South Abbotsford is 12 days altogether, a maximum of 12 days. So anybody else? I know Rana is saying 10 days full-time staff and 5 days for part-time staff.
I can talk.
Sure.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Sue.
Sue, I work at Forest Grove Community Church, and our sick leave is 10 days a year, and then we also have compassion leave of 5 days a year, and then as well, you can't carry that over.
Okay. Any of your policies require a doctor's note for those 6 days? No? Okay. Others? So I think we heard from Mark that, let's be creative and compassionate as much as through this time, because we have, we don't know what's ahead. We don't know how long we would need to be isolated. And we don't know how, we don't have an idea how this will impact the finances that allows us to pay our employees, our pastors, our staff in our churches. So it will be good for every church to kind of sit down and think about scenarios. So if we have to lay off people, what are the first steps, second steps, third steps that we need to put in place for that? So my next question for you, and that'll be my last question on this subject, unless somebody else has something. How many of you have already sat down and planned what to do if the time comes when you need to lay off a number of employees? Have you prepared anything? No? It's so new. But the purpose of this is to get you to start thinking about this. And Mark suggested a few things. I think he suggested that we start using our sick days. I think another way to do that is reduce hours before, utilize your vacation pay, those kinds of things are things that I think churches could begin to consider before rolling out any layoffs to employees. If the situation occurs where there are funding for churches to continue employment, but the services are not required, maybe one way of addressing this would be, there are other areas where we can redeploy people that we have employed to other areas of ministries that they could do during the time of this isolation, social isolation piece. So think creatively to minimize the impact on the people that work with us and that serve our congregations. Okay. we're going to move now to a conversation around insurance, and I'm glad to have Corey Friesen. And I think I see, is it, who is in the background there, Corey?
That's Anthony.
That's Anthony. Long time no see, Anthony. How are you?
Been a while.
It's been a while.
Sure.
Thank you for both of you for being here with us this morning. As I said, Corey Friesen and Anthony work for Lakeview Insurance, and they are a broker here out of Winnipeg, but work with Robertson Hall, which you probably, if your church is insured, you know, there are very few insurances that are working with churches. Robertson Hall is one of the premier insurance providers for churches, and so I just thought it would be good to have a conversation with them. They're also people of faith, and you know, they connect and understand church and church life. So it's good to have them here. So thank you to both of you for being here.
Very good. Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Can you
maybe,
hear us all right?
Sorry?
Can you hear us all right?
Yeah, we can hear you. Maybe, I don't know if you have any preamble, any starting off point, things to consider during this time. What are some of the things you're hearing from your insurance companies that you would like to pass on to churches? It might be things that are not already in place, but they are being considered. Maybe I'll start out by saying a couple of things. I know out of the U.S., I heard from a couple of pastors out of the U.S., and that insurances are not insuring large gatherings at this time because it's the government is requiring that people do not gather. So insurances are not insuring large gathering. I did not hear that here in Canada yet, but is that something to think about? The other thing I heard is that insurance are not providing certificates to events that are not held inside of the church building. So maybe you can comment on this or any other matters that you may have for us.
Yeah. Well, sure. So yeah, thanks for having us on today. It's a pleasure to be here. And Anthony and myself are practicing some social distancing by being roughly apart. As far as insuring large gatherings and stuff like that, the insurance companies, Robertson Hall in particular, that we're working with, they are, I mean, as a church, we are supposed to be following the government's guidelines. So it's kind of ruling out any possibility of large gatherings. And so with that, it doesn't really matter what the purpose of the gathering is, whether it's a church service, fundraiser, conference, a picnic, etc., or who the participants are, whether it's the pastor, board members, participants, or guests, or where it occurs, be it on premises or off premises. The insurance companies are temporarily and indefinitely no longer issuing certificates for insurance for gatherings that exceed the public health orders. So those are key questions that we're obviously taking in as we get requests for certificates. If they exceed the numbers or that is presently being put out there, then we're no longer able to get a certificate for that event, and in a sense, you know, recommending that event be canceled. And as far as on the extra, like, we've also had access to event policy coverage through Robertson Hall, and they are also suspending any coverage available to events that are more than 25 persons on premises at any one time. So, and again, this is something that's continued to evolve over the last week. I believe the numbers continue to drop from where they were, I guess closer to 250, now just coming down, and it'll continue to change as as the government continues to make the recommendations and put out the requirements for us. So, you know, as this continues to go, we will continue to get updates and be able to advise accordingly.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm sure you could not hear me when my mic was muted. Anthony, anything you would like to add?
Really, the main thing to keep in mind is from an insurance perspective, we're really following what you know, is being laid out there for us from the what you know in terms of Health Canada is stipulating. So we're not really coming up with anything new or we're really just following what the requirements are that are being set out for us from the set up by the governments, the various levels of government. What can perhaps be a little bit different from one province to the next is you know, some provinces have gone so far as to issue a state of emergency, which may have some additional limitations applied, and so churches in those jurisdictions should you know, be keeping that in mind and following those orders. So really, I guess from an insurance perspective, we're kind of saying, well, whatever it is that your whether it's the national government or federal government or your provincial government, whatever it is saying is what should be followed, and so we won't be able to go beyond that from an insurance perspective.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ken, you have a question. Oh, David, is it? Yeah, David.
Sorry, I was just looking to see if it was.
Sorry.
I know, Ken, I didn't think he was in the loop there.
Yeah.
No problem. Corey, I have a question about liabilities related to other rental groups of our own that are using our own facility. For example, we have 2 other churches that meet in our building as well, and other rental groups. So is it our, as well as AA groups that meet? And so when I heard you say no more than 25 persons on any premises at one time, is it our responsibility to enforce that?
Yeah, so you would have to be looking at the I guess the whatever is in your which province are you in, by the way?
British Columbia.
Columbia. Okay, so whatever the government there is mandating as far as numbers, maximum gathering numbers, is you should be enforcing that with the groups that you rent to as well.
I know that in my church here in Manitoba, we have a few rental groups. They're church, other church congregations that also use our facility, and we have my own church has suspended church services and other weekly meetings and events and so on and so forth. And at this point, we have essentially asked those other groups, rental groups, to do the same, and in terms of, at least in terms of the use of our building. And so we haven't, had any pushback on that. Everybody has been generally pretty accepting of the situation and the requests and so on. But we've asked those groups to follow suit in terms of what our own congregation is doing. Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions for Corey and Anthony? Dennis, Federal, and then Russell.
Just a comment, further adding another ripple effects to these restrictions coming from insurance. I got an email from our representative, Johnson Meyer. This is Dennis from BC, by the way. And he said that if your church is more than 50 people and you decide that's still okay to meet and you host a baptism, be aware that we are not going to cover you for baptisms because people are going to get dunked in the same water. And so that creates risk of infection. Just wanted to put that out there, that's another layer that I had not considered. That's an interesting consequence of this.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a tough, like, and it's, I think it was Mark Tays that was, mentioned, well, I'm sure it's been mentioned several times. This is such an unprecedented scenario that I can't think of any professional organization or whether it be insurance or from a legal perspective or what have you, from labor, whatever the case may be, that anyone has really has a firm grip on what's all involved here or what the ripple effects are. It is so there's just nothing to fall back on in terms of an example of what could happen or what will happen if say a church group decides to do this or hold an event and something comes from it. How will the insurance respond? We can. There's just no way to say for sure, and that's why we just keep coming back to following what is being laid out by the government regulators. That's really the key at this point.
Thank you very much. Russell Lucky.
Yeah. Hi there. So we, as a church, we provide some food to homeless people in a local park, along with having conversations with them and just building connection with them. Just from a liability point of view, do we need to be stopping that? It's outside, but I'm just curious where we would stand, especially with the new changes on doing that sort of work.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
I would say, again, coming back to what we mentioned a few times, is making sure you're following the guidelines set out by your local government in terms of the number of people that can be in a group. Even though it's outside, I realize that there's some safety in that. But assuming that it is within the guidelines being set out, that you're practicing the other preventative measures, social distancing being the key one, and looking for ways just to be safe and conscious of the issues. So if it's a small group meeting outdoors, and you've made sure to space things and everybody is aware of the requests being made in that regard, I wouldn't see an issue in that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And these conversations are not so we can operate out of fear, but that there are two resources, so we know the intricate details around it. And of course, the church still needs to be the church, even in this time, and even more so during this time. We need to be the church and to help people who are in distress at this time. The reality is that this kind of crisis increases even more the need around those that are most vulnerable. So I said yesterday, one of the calls that I have come out of our places that help the homeless is that they need volunteers, as most of their volunteers are people that are over the age of 70, and now they are self-isolating, so they have just lost a great deal of their volunteers to help the homeless. So how can we, the church, continue to be the church during this time? I think that is important for us to keep on doing that. Further questions?
I think the other balance that we, like as a church, we are always, and even as a business here, that we're kind of balancing is, the need to continue to provide that community and support for our church members, but also at the same time, it's that perception within our society too, that we also keep in mind that we're not looking as though we're thumbing our nose at what government has set out and what what the social requirements are now. So I think all of that, and not to say that we should completely stop any kind of meeting whatsoever, but let's just keep all of that in mind, that we're all being watched. We're all kind of have this new standard that is being placed upon us, and so we just also want to show that we're all doing our part to to ensure that we're going to come out of this well on the other side.
Absolutely. Before you guys go, is there a place where we can get up-to-date information as it relates to insurance that churches could go to, even churches that are not on with Robson Hall? But I think that you know, if they were able to read what Robson Hall is saying, it's probably will apply to most other insurance providers as well. But is there a place to get updated information?
Well, I would say that the place to go would be to the broker, probably, that has the account, right? The broker will be the conduit of information to the policyholder. So we, you know, here at Lakeview, we are continuing to get updates and bulletins from our insurance companies, and you know, making sure that we have that information readily available. And as clients are calling and you know, getting having requests for information, having questions about how coverage applies or doesn't apply, we're able to advise them accordingly, right? So that would be my recommendation.
We could probably, like, we have a link on our that you have created that takes somebody to our website where we do have a message there. And I mean, the information that's being put out there, and we could even provide that link to the Robertson Hall site as well. Right now, as of today, the information is pretty standard. You know, what we all, you know, a disclaimer that we always have to offer is that you know, information, we can't comment on a insurance policy that we're not writing. Let's just be clear on that. But you know, to a large degree, you know, a lot of what's being discussed and reviewed and so on and so forth is more or less the same from one insurance provider to the next. But you know, even as I say that, I just want to be clear that you know, anything that we provide would be based on you know, the policies that we write. But you know, we could probably provide some of those links to you that you can share, and just maybe provide that that understanding that this is, you know, information to be looked at from a general point of view, and more specific information should be obtained from the insurance broker or provider that each church has. But and right now, yeah, there's some basic information out there that I think could be helpful. It's still evolving, you know, as time goes on here in terms of how to respond to the questions. It's just remarkable the speed at which everything has changed, especially over this last week. We did have a lot of churches decide last weekend already that they would not hold a service, and I'm pretty much now, over the course of this last week, I think now this weekend, I'm not sure of any church that is holding a service. So it's just that quickly how things have changed. But and so we're trying our best to keep up with that. Part of the frustration is, you know, insurance, the industry itself doesn't quite know where it stands in all of this. So there's a little bit of hesitancy to put out a ton of information, especially as it pertains to insurance response or insurance wording, how it responds to this. And so what we do have, we can certainly make available, but it might be a little bit limited at this point in time. Something to consider, you know, one thing that we don't have a lot of information on right now, I know one of the questions might be, you know, how does business interruption respond to this situation? The very quick and short answer is the insurance policy, the insurance coverage, the business interruption insurance coverage on an insurance policy is not going to respond to this scenario because this is not an insured peril. I'll just leave it at that for now. If we want, we can talk more in detail about that or why that is the case. But that is that's an industry-wide response. Yeah. And so it'll be. I'm not sure if there's, you know, if anyone has really looked into or heard anything more about what the federal government is doing in terms of their their funding plan and how that will involve churches and other faith-based organizations. But that'll be a key issue there too at some point.
So let me just clarify what you just said, because I think you just threw a bomb in a room here for a second. What you just said is that if someone gets, it's linked to be infected in one of our meetings, that is not under any coverage of any insurance at this point in time. Is that what you said?
Like if somebody gets infected?
Yeah.
Like, and if there's a legal matter that results from that?
Yes.
Oh, no, I wasn't responding. I wasn't saying that.
Okay.
I don't have like at this point, you know, again, you know, there isn't necessarily an exclusion per se. Now I'm speaking very specifically to the programs that we deal with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, there's no precedence for this. So I don't know. I couldn't answer that question, you know, 100% with clarity at this point, because there's just no way to answer that question at this point. Sure. But what I was saying is that business interruption, so loss of income coverage,
right,
that churches experience because directly as a result of the pandemic and having to shut down for a period of time, that loss is not covered under the insurance coverage.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Dennis, federal, that'll be the last question on this topic, and then we'll move on to other topics. Dennis?
Yeah, thanks. Just to clarify, though, that for our church's sake, for their peace of mind, the policies that our churches have signed up for, in BC's case, we start our policies in November of 2019 and it goes to October 2020. Those policies are in place and insured, and our churches are insured for property and liability insurance under the normal activities as covered, with the exception of whatever the restrictions that the government has imposed. Correct?
Correct. Yep. Yeah. There's no interruption. Nothing has changed from the insurance perspective. So your policies have continued to are enforced without any interruption in that way.
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for taking the time and being here with us. You've been a great resource to us, and you know, God give you wisdom as you help other churches navigate through this difficult time. So thank you again for taking the time and being with us. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you. At this time, we want to move our conversation to two other topics. One is with us, we have the CEO of Legacy. So Jim Davison is with us. There are some board members from Legacy. I know that some of our churches also have mortgages. They have mortgages with us. Some of our pastors have mortgages with us. And there were a bit of concerns. There have been some emails exchanged in the last little bit about what happens to the mortgages covered by Legacy. You know, we have heard recently the banks have, they're offering a period of the holiday for people if they are unable to pay their mortgages. So I just want to let Jim speak to this from the Legacy perspective, and then you can engage with questions. Good morning.
Thank
Jim.
you, Eldon. Morning, Eldon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not using my audio on my iPad, so the big picture won't be there, and that may be a good thing. So I'm just going to do a little preamble as we move forward. First of all, one point of clarification, that effective August 30th of 2019, all of our investments and mortgages have been transferred into CCMBC Investments Ltd. So although Legacy is the owner of that corporation, the mortgages actually come out of investments. So we have to start looking at how we start communicating that out, and just so we have the right terminology on it. It's not a big deal, but we'll get that straightened out as we move forward. Over the last few days, Eleanor Dirksen in our Winnipeg office and myself and a number of our board members have been diving into the current situation that we have in terms of mortgages and trying to separate an understanding of what is going out in the marketplace with the major banks as well as the licensed lenders that are out there. And a couple of comments we've gotten back as we go through press releases and things that it says, I'll read one of them. I think Carson may have put this out. It says, effective immediately, the Bank of Montreal, CIBC, National Bank of Canada, RBC, Royal Bank, Scotiabank, and TD Bank have made a commitment to work with personal and small business banking customers on a case-by-case basis to provide flexible solutions to help them manage through challenges such as pay disruption due to COVID-19, childcare disruption due to school closures, and those facing illnesses from COVID-19. So they've identified that they're working with the folks who have money that they've loaned money to, and what it talks about is up to a 6-month payment deferral. I just want to make it really clear that they're talking about deferral. They're not talking about debt forgiveness or interest forgiveness or anything like that. So having said that, this is exactly the policy that CCMBC Investments has had, and before that CCMBC, that if we have a church or a pastor or a camp or some other organization that is facing some kind of difficulty, they come to us and they say, you know, we're having these problems, and then we work with them on a case-by-case basis to work out some kind of a payment opportunity that fits both of us. It is our mission to provide these mortgages to pastors and churches and camps to allow them to really do kingdom work. And we probably go a lot further than the charter banks do in many cases to make decisions to help these people be successful and churches be successful with their ability to repay their debt. So just a going in point, you know, this is something we're already doing, we have been doing. We probably have to maybe think about how we do a communication of this. The one thing we want to do is just make a statement that we are not providing just a general deferment to everybody. We will do like the major banks are doing, that we will take the calls, we will deal with them one by one, we will ask for information supporting why the application for the desire to do some kind of a payment deferral or reduction, and then we'll move there and we will run it through our staff and myself, and then we take it on to our board of directors. So that's the current situation that we're in. You know, so we look forward to, you know, having these discussions with people, and I'm a moderator of Forest Grove, so I fully understand the impacts that are going on at the church level. You know, and I see people around, and I know that there's all sorts of new inconveniences and distractions that are going on in our country today. So we're certainly very sensitive to the situation and hoping we can do whatever we can to help out.
Thank you, Jim. I'm sure you have questions for Jim, but I just want to maybe clarify a couple things, Jim. So you said to us, and if I heard you correctly, if not, please correct me. If I heard you correctly, you are not creating a new response based on this crisis right now, because the response you already have in place is sufficient to deal with this, which is very similar to what the major banks are doing at this point in time. And so that's one thing you said. You also clarified that you were not going to have a blanket response to everybody, but you would deal with cases as they come to you and analyze what's the best response in that situation. Is that what you said?
Yes, Elton, that's exactly what I was saying. I probably could have said it as short as you did, but that is what we're doing, and we recognize as well that in each case, that the circumstances may be a little bit different. So the answer to each individual question on this could be different. You know, some individuals or churches may just need a reduction in the amount of payment. Some may need a full amount. And we have to understand that when we make these changes, that when we become online and we get back to whatever the new normal is, that those debts and the accrued interest that is building up over the time of those reduced or deferred payments has to be repaid. And so payment terms will change once we start back to paying the full amounts.
Thank you. Opening for questions for Jim or for our CCMBC Investments Legacy, any of those questions? Dennis Federal.
Jim, thank you very much for taking a proactive approach on this and for offering from CCMBC's perspective, the willingness to meet with each church. I think that's tremendous. Is there a way that you can mass communicate this to the churches either via CCMBC's website or Legacy's website? So in other words, just a note, if you're saying to the churches, if you face financial stresses due to the COVID-19, please connect with us, and just something that gets out to the churches.
Dennis, I believe there's something we can do. I'm gonna pass this one back to Eleanor and Carson. They will work with myself and Bertha on this, but I think we probably have the means to be able to do some mass communication.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Jim. This was very helpful for us to hear that, and appreciated you being with us in this call this morning. So the last few minutes we would have here, I just wanted to talk to you about in this time that of what is being called the social isolation, and we are not meeting in person, it's still important for churches to continue to motivate people to give to the mission of the church and the continuation of that giving. So it would be important for churches to think creatively, and I know many churches are, to utilize multiple ways that allows people to give to the mission of the church. So, you know, I know, for example, the church I attend to has several ways. One of them is the church has built an app, and on that app you have the ability to connect straight and to give from that app. There is, you can purchase services for something called push pay that you can have in your website, where people can utilize credit cards or even from their own bank account. The other option as well is that you enter into an agreement with the larger banks to become a certified payee, so people can actually find you in their electronic bank accounts, and they can add you as a payee, and then be able to actually send money that way. Are there any other options that you are utilizing as a church to help people during this time to continue to give? So we are hearing pre-authorized and e-transfers and ETSF. What is that?
Electronic transfer.
Okay, so electronic transfer, okay. Anything else that you are utilizing as your church? Tide.ly. Okay, Conrad, do you want to talk more about that? What is that? Conrad Lowen, you are there somewhere. So pre-authorized checks as well. Good. So there's lots of information going on in the chat. I cannot read it all, just going too fast for me to read it all, but you can engage with that. So one of the things to do is to begin to motivate, continue to motivate, and create the message that during this time, just because we are not gathering, it doesn't mean that the church that is not continuing. And the need for continuing to serve mission is important. Is the money that comes into the church does serve the mission of that local church, but is also beyond that. There are the service of the missions all everywhere, and provincially, nationally, and even internationally. So that message could be given to congregations at this time. Have you so any questions? I know this probably for you as churches, this is probably just one Sunday that you did not meet together. Did you notice a substantial decline in giving from people not gathering together? If anybody wants to answer that, or did you notice at all any decline? Okay, so we're hearing yes. Anybody else would say yes, that you have looked at it and you would say yes, so we hear more yes. Others are saying no, we had solid giving. So this is very new, and it will take some time for us to kind of analyze this curve as things begin to progress. And so we are looking at some churches are saying 50% reduction in giving, which is something that is that will begin to affect the bottom line if this persists for any length of time. So it would be important for us to continue to talk to our people, motivate our people, and to continue to tell them that the mission of the church continues, and that to remind them and create opportunities for them to give in different ways. I think unless you have, is there any questions that you may have around this subject, all the subjects we touched on today, that has not been addressed to your fully for you, and that you want to raise up? No? Okay, so this then marks the end of this meeting for us. I'm going to close with a word of prayer. Know that the national ministry team, which are all the leaders of the provinces, the president of the seminary, the president of Multiply, the head of the National Faith and Life team, we are meeting together now weekly to think about what kind of resources we could put together for churches. We are planning, and you'll probably just look in your email today, but at the end of the day, you are going to get an invitation to a day of prayer and fasting for next Wednesday, that we will be collectively doing that around the country. It will come from your provincial conferences, an invitation for you to join us for doing that day for a 1 hour of prayer together. So we organizing that. I think we will pray not just for ourselves, but we pray for the state of the world and how this will hit many of the third world countries where the health system is not as developed as the ones we have here. So thank you again for your participation. I'm just going to close with a word of prayer. I'm going to leave the chat open for another 5 minutes after this, so you can copy any of the information that is there and save it to your computer, and you can go back to it later. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, as we begin this meeting, we want to begin with give you honor and glory and to thank you for being a God that is bigger than anything. And in these times, unprecedented times for your church in North America and Canada, I pray, Father, for your creative hand to just be upon us, that you help us to see what you're doing, what are you inviting us into. And I pray, Father, that you can help the church to be significant in these times. Help us, Father, as we navigate needs around finances and insurance and legal things that may happen out of this crisis. I pray that you help us to do it well and to be examples to the world of what it means to be kingdoms of the kingdom of heaven, to be participants in the kingdom of heaven. So I pray that in the name of Jesus. Amen. Well, thank you very much, and just keep an eye on your emails, and you will get some invitation for further connecting as we move along. Blessings on you.